All right, this is a very special episode of Daddy Recovery, and it is unpacking the lyrics behind my newest single, Business Class, out May 23rd. What? So I've decided to start an album, and the potential name is The Story of Mr. H. And it's really about the origin stories of my father and our dynamics, and kind of the same thing as Daddy Recovery, this infiltration that his toxicity has had in my choices as a woman in business, career, a woman in love, relationships, a woman in friendship, picking people that used and sabotaged me because they called their actions against me love. And I was so desperate for love that, I'll take the name tag. Right? I'll take the title, even if everything under it is unworthy. And Business Class is kind of one of my first songs. There's another song I wrote called Money and Heart. Please listen to it. It's fantastic. And I'm learning production because part of why, and I mentioned it in Miraging and with the producer, I have just been so duped, with producers that keep my songs, that don't listen to me no matter how much I pay them. I don't want that much reverb, damn it. And it's something that my friend, her partner, Lion Goodwin, fantastic artist. Please check him out as well. He's suffered his own discouragement, and he was very sweet and very honest because I called her crying, kind of overwhelmed that I was not getting the support I needed, even when paid by these producers, of which most of them are men. Like, there's not too many female producers. They don't get that well paid. And a lot of them became producers because, like myself, they had to learn mixing and mastering because men weren't listening. They were taking their money, taking their songs, taking their ideas, and they were losing too much. And it's kind of like I'm learning these skills to survive. I've always composed my songs, always made the beats, but my Achilles heel is mixing and mastering, especially my own vocals, because I'm such a powerful singer. Like, I'm a belter. I could do whistle notes, but I haven't even started doing whistle notes because I'm like, oh Lord, how am I going to edit that? And I think for a lot of female producers like myself, even though I'm a baby producer, I think for us, we've learned these skills because we were just trying to be artists, and our creativity was so taken or devalued or disrespected by these male producers that it almost became a safety precaution. I can't lose any more money. I can't go through an experience of a producer. I mean, he kept like 6 to 8 of my songs. And like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I gave him that one too. I hope he doesn't use it. I hope he doesn't steal it, especially because a lot of these male producers, they're not even talented. They're just skilled. They just learned how to do it. And they were lucky enough to have the intelligence to figure it out, but they're not exactly creative or talented or inspired like the producer that I mentioned. And I think what happens is we come in with all our creativity and all our intelligence and our inspiration and our muse without realizing that there is an exchange. You're paying this male producer to not give you what you want and inadvertently giving him something that he needs, which is creativity. So Business Class, Money and Heart is really the first time I ever really sang about my dad, and the whole concept of daddy issues in music started developing. And I went to go see Amy, the new Amy Winehouse film, and I was so inspired by her writing style, and I just thought to myself, what if I wrote my music like I write my podcast episodes, my stories? What if I did it with such details and personality and kind of intimacy, that whether or not you share my story, you share my feelings? And that's where Business Class came in. And so the first verse is, heard the news you're traveling, taking your new family to Spain, Sweden. Save some money when you broke a home. Got to save your pay by acting like your daughter you didn't owe. One of the last, my father, it's so crazy how badly he treated me. He was always bragging about all the things he was giving his children, his grandchildren, as if I was either living vicariously via how he treated them, or as if I wasn't one of his children. Like it's either he thought by saying how good he treated them in some way, I could recognize he was a good father, even if it wasn't for me, or mentally, he had just shut me out so much out of his heart, out of his mind, that he didn't see how hurtful it is. I'm struggling to pay for school. He's giving all my siblings not only paying for their tuition, but recommendations to get into better schools. Because remember, he was a lawyer. And I remember asking him, can you help me get into your alma mater, which I believe was Rutgers, to study law? And he said no, that I had to earn it. And he was talking about, he knows I love travel. I mean, and I wrote it in A Conscious Travel. And he was talking about how he was taking his grandchildren all over Europe, paying for them like one by one. I think he has like 8 grandchildren or something. I don't even know how many. And like taking them on one-on-one trips. My father made me pay for some of his dinners. Like he would, the idea that he would pay for a seat for me to go anywhere was whoa. And he was there just telling me I'm buying them first class to go to Sweden. He said Spain and Sweden. I'm taking your nephew. And we've traveled before and we loved it. And this was the last time I saw him. And I was just there smiling. And I think my reaction is what triggered me to kind of realize this relationship is not going to work. He hasn't even said sorry for his abuse. He's starting to do his typical psychological warfare, which is I'm going to tell you every good thing that's happening to me. And I'm making sure happens for my other family while you're struggling. And then call you dumb or fat or whatever name he had to pick for that day. And I just thought, you really don't think you owe me anything. You don't feel any humility or gratitude to the fact that I even let you have a dinner date with me, which 50-50 chance you'll make me pay for. I don't exist to you beyond the image you want to say you never abandoned me if you're physically in front of me, but you left me in every other way. I mean, to say that to somebody that you duped them into student debt, and you'll hear about that in another episode, that you said their mother was this evil bitch, the mother that gave you money when you were too broke to pay for your kids' electricity. And then you can't even pay for your child with her, their textbooks. He was just a master asshole. And he said that. And I'm like, well, of course you have so much money to go everywhere. You never paid for me. You even got money from us. So congratulations. And it was crazy to me how numb he was. So the pre-chorus is, oh, it must be good to fake elegance. Designer brands, Ferragamo, Bottega, Hermes, got more money instead of cocaine in that bag. My dad was a cokehead. That's the second verse. My dad was a cokehead and he loved designer brands. And part of his kind of psychological warfare from me was he became obsessed with taking me shopping for his other family. And he would go to the most expensive stores, spend thousands of dollars on himself, on his grandkids, on his daughter, and all that. All people he claimed to hate. But hey, I mean, he hated me and I didn't get anything. So hate me with Hermes, baby. And those were his favorite brands. And when he last visited me, he took me into Bottega Veneta and he was talking about how he bought his little granddaughter, who's like 4 or 5, this little purse, the one with the sardine. And I just thought, well, God, you got a lot more money instead of Coke in your nose, huh? And I know it's such a brutal, brusque thought, but I think my father just killed he was always on image control, trying to look so good to me while being so bad. I like, and it's something that I mention a lot, and I kind of touched upon on the episode No Cuddling. I just don't know what was his intention beyond it was either to make me think he was a good dad, even if it wasn't to me, or kind of relish in the torture of telling me things he would never give me, or just genuinely not see that I have a heart and a soul and a mind, and that perhaps these very things he's telling me hurt me because he doesn't give them to me. He doesn't even see me as worthy of them. So the core, I put pre-chorus: sobered enough to choose still not to be a man, but you're flying to places where you only dream. I couldn't. That verse is very similar to that pre-chorus is very similar to the first verse in Energy, which is the whole point of the song is that my father was bragging about all the things he was getting, all the travels he was taking with his other family. And it was totally an expense of me because they wouldn't get the good man they got had he not had somewhere or someone to place the bad man he was. And he scapegoated me and abused me and my mom so that he could still relish and enjoy the darkness he was. Very Ted Bundy of him. Ted Bundy was a great stepdad, a fabulous brother, a really good husband, and killed 100 women. And sometimes it's hard to understand how that all worked within one man. But I think what my father proved is that they need outlets. My father worked in images. He was smart enough to know he was a bad man, but he liked it too much. So he was even smarter at knowing how to mold a good image so that he could keep the bad guy. And the chorus goes: business class, Mr. H is flying, because he left his wife and child dying. Oh, business class, Mr. H is a good man, now that he got rid of those he treated so bad. Oh, business class, the devil hides behind a wealthy mask. My father, part of being so materialistic and image-based is that, like I said, he dresses in Ferragamo, Bottega, Hermes. He knows their entire history. He's very cultured because that's his cover-up. And we think about it, the biggest thieves in this world are men who wear suits. And yet, we're scared of a guy with a hoodie. Nobody has stolen more than a man with a gold Rolex walking onto Wall Street. And I think what my dad did is so similar, and it's something that I love Sister Wives, and I remember Janelle speaking about Cody, and she said something so impactful, especially to people who have been in an abusive relationship, a relationship with a narcissist, which is they push you away until you leave and then act like you left. I was willing to stay with you even if I stayed mistreating you, but you left. You left. And that was my father's dynamic. He painted it like I abandoned him, but he was abusive towards me. He never stopped saying horrible things to me and doing horrible things to me out of glee. And I think he's living his fantasy of I'm a good man. I redeemed myself, especially in the eyes of my grandkids who never met or know the story of who I really was before them. Because I got rid of the evidence. I got rid of the other kid. I got rid of her sickly mother. I did good, guys. So the bridge is: ladies and not so gents, thank you for flying with me again. Please sit down in your row for a story so turbulent it'll shake you with its cold. About a liar, bigamist, drug addict, con man, and the worst of his bold, a father who didn't love his little girl. My father was a bigamist, a thief, a scam artist, a lawyer, a Mensa member, like a con man. I don't think he was a Mensa member, but he was certainly courted to be. I think him and my mom had this mutual idea because they're both mensa worthy. Of I'm not going to pay to be called intelligent. But he was all these horrible things, and I really think the worst thing he was, particularly in terms of me, was just not loving. He didn't love me. And everything else that he was, con man, drug addict, bigamist, liar, it was all these things that he was because he didn't love me, and to cover that up. Because there's something so evil about a man who doesn't love his little girl. How could you not love a little girl? How could you plan on how to make her cry and then continue to make fun of her for doing that? You are disgusting. And Mr. H, yeah, he was a disgusting man, my dad, unfortunately. But he was my dad, and I think now I'm just grieving. It's not the loss of an image, it's the loss, the never gaining of a reality. I did not have a good father. I had a very evil one. And to think that there are more evil ones, whew, God bless you. God bless you. I wish you nothing but healing and love. I just will never have a dad. He took that from me. He didn't want to give it to me. He was too mess. So check out daddyrecovery.com. Business class is out May 23rd. Deandra on all platforms. And follow the podcast on all platforms as well.